and welcome to this edition of Peak Life. Today we're going to be talking about what determines a school zone. And joining me is Officer Lawrence. Welcome back to Peak Life.
Thanks for having me here.
So what does determine a school zone?
Well, it's a collaboration with the school systems and the city and traffic engineering and the police department to determine school zones. A lot of what happens is when a new school's built, it's an automatic thing that goes in and it's checked and a school zone's automatically put into place. Some of the older schools that don't have school zones, data studies are completed, traffic engineering, the school division and the police department talk about it and determine whether or not, based on those studies and the cars and the volumes and everything, if a school zone needs to be put in there.
So why would a school need a school zone if there's no walking zone, or if, say, the school drop-off is behind the school or to the side?
That's a great question. The reason that we have school zones is because it's regulated by law. We have it, and it doesn't determine whether or not a school drops off in the back or the front. It doesn't say that it has to be a private school or a public school. It just says that it has to be a school, and kids have to come to and from school. That's it. There has to be kids on the property at the school, and the school zone can be there. So when we determine school zones, we just ensure that it follows the state code and that we're following all the regulations there.
So you recently installed the school zone speed cameras. Why did you start with a private school?
Well, we did a data study to determine what are the top schools that had violations, potential violations. And all that is just the volume amount of vehicles that came through that area in the school zone. A lot of the school zones have been around for a while, so it's nothing new that we had set up. So all we did is look at the data and say that these school zones are the top violator zones, and so then therefore that's where we determine some of our cameras.
All right, that makes sense. So if I'm driving down the road and I'm going by a school zone and I see a crossing guard, how come I don't see them in every school zone?
Another great question. The Chesapeake Police Department and the school system and traffic engineering determine on whether or not a crossing guard is needed. There's a couple of factors that go into it. Are there a lot of walkers in that area? Is it needed? Is it needed to keep the flow of traffic going with buses, parents coming in and out? Because that's another thing too, is just the flow of traffic with certain areas and stuff. But the police department ultimately assists in making that decision on whether or not a crossing guard goes there.
So if I'm not familiar with what time the school lets out, or if it's closing on a special day for a holiday or teacher work day, where can I find that information?
There's not a centralized location at this time. The police department is working on updating our website and having all those school zone times, the schools where the cameras will be located, and any information like that. We follow the school's website with days off, teacher work days, and of course, if kids aren't on the property, the school zones won't be active. And the other thing I'd mention is just that if you see a flashing light from one of the speed's cameras and you think that it was out of time from when the school zones are active, it's researched each time before that violation is approved to ensure that kids were there at school. And testing is constantly done, and the best time to test is when kids aren't in school and we have actually cars going through that area. So just because you see a flash doesn't mean that you're going to get a speeding ticket or a speeding citation. It just means that we're ensuring that the cameras are working and it's reviewed by a police officer. That's all.
So the lesson really is to just be aware of where the school zone is and to be alert for the flashing light, of course, to indicate that that speed has lowered for the school zone.
Absolutely.
And once your website is updated with more information, we'll certainly let people know about that.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, just slow down in a school zone.
Absolutely. That's the best policy. Slow down in a school zone.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Officer Lawrence, for stopping by.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. That does it for this edition of Peak Life, and be sure to join us next time.